One day I found myself on a dirt road. Farmer walks by and says, "How you doing?" I took out my shotgun and blew his leg off. Clearly, it was not his business how I was doing. He falls to the ground, starts bleeding and screaming real loud. Kind of like that one time when the Kardashian woman was denied a butt implant. Anyways, he finally bleeds out, and I drag his body over to a collection of corpses that I had gathered after breakfast. I set them all on fire and I stood back. It was soothing. That's the only way I can describe it. In fact, I would have to say that there is nothing better than a human barbecue. Am I right? I am. Now, before you call the authorities, please note that no real people were harmed in the making of this speech. There are people who want to get rid of violent video games. I've divided these people into two groups. The first are creationists, and sadly none of my arguments work against them, so I'll have to address that later. But the second group are evolutionists, and I believe that some of my arguments might work against some of them. I've divided this group into three components: the good, the bad, and the irrelevant. For the good, these believe that morality, law, and an ordered society are compatible with the principles of evolution. I find this problematic because evolution is all about eliminating the weak and the pathetic, and an ordered society is all about protecting the weak and the pathetic. But nevertheless, CNBC article, Patrick Markey, the director of International Research Laboratory and professor at Villanova University, had this to say: "The research is not there to suggest that there is a link between violent video games and these horrific acts of violence. When we look at when people play video games, we actually see a dip in violent crimes and we don't see an uptick later." To this group, I would say, stop banning my video games. Embrace them. They contain the beast within. The second group of evolutionists that I would like to appeal to are those that believe in survival of the fittest. Specifically, the ones that believe in eugenics, which is just a belief that, much like a rancher who culls his herd or her herd of the weak and the infirm to better their stock, we can do the same thing with the human herd to further along the advances of evolution. Hitler was one of these people. In Mein Kampf, he writes, "The stronger must dominate and not mate with the weaker, which would signify the sacrifice of its own higher nature." Fox News report states, "A study by the American Psychological Association shows ties between these games and there are ties between these games and aggressive behavior." So I would say to this group, stop banning my video games. Instead, you should be initiating legislation to make it mandatory for every child 5 years and up to be playing video games at least 3 to 4 hours a day. Let's cultivate their natures, their violent natures. Let's make them the monsters that they can be. Let's send them out into the community and further along the principles of evolution. Third group of evolutionists, and this bleeds into some of the other groups, are those that believe, like John Dewey, the famous evolutionist, and one of the people who was most responsible for the development of the American public education system, who says, there is no God, there is no soul. If this is true, if there's no intangible component, if we're just matter, and we live and we die and we disappear, forgotten forever, and to note, if the universe is billions of years old and our life is only 80, 90 years old, that's significantly insignificant. In fact, a gnat's life is more meaningful. And if that's true, then a couple things are true. Number one, there's no one to be held accountable. And number two, if this is all you got, why are you wasting time banning my video games? You should be out there figuring out a way to get the things that make you happy. Whether that's a giant yacht, a Lamborghini, or a big old pile of French fries from McDonald's. Whatever it is that makes you happy, that's what you should be doing. Not waste your time banning video games. And since there's no one to be held accountable, there is no God. Why would you restrict yourself to following laws that other men and women have made? You should just do whatever you need to do to fulfill your life, since it's so brief and this is all you're going to get. You're a skin bag full of randomly reacting chemicals, and you're going to be dead before you know it. So, to this group, I say, stop banning my video games. Leave them alone. Mind your own affairs. In conclusion, the 3 evolutionary positions are compatible with violent video games. Violent video games contain violence. They, on the other hand, they promote violence. And in the third hand, it doesn't even matter. So, buy yourself a copy of Red Dead Redemption, join me online, and let's go ahead and get some human barbecue started. Let's do it!